Hello.
Hello.
Woo. There'll be no foreplay. There will only be Gaywyck. We don't have time. We are on a tight time limit.
That's wild because we have an hour before I have to leave. Well, a little bit less, but
Yeah.
the fact that we're like, if we start talking about anything else, we will not
No.
have time to talk about this book. So, nope,
Yeah.
just raw dogging Gaywyck. It's
book.
what I think Vincent Virga would have wanted.
It really is. It really is. I have to assume. What a book. We are Romance or TBR. Before we get too deep.
Welcome to this edition of our spooky season episodes.
Mm-hmm.
We've brought you Angelica Frankenstein.
Yeah, we have.
Nope, that's it so far. The first one was not spooky. I was thinking we had another one. I think I'm thinking of last year's Halloween episode.
Yeah.
Which I will mention as
a
thing you should listen to if you're like, I want just sheer chaos in this moment.
That one had some quotes. It was quotable. Just like this book.
Yeah, that I would say that episode's arguably our most unhinged.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the first, again, that one also has no foreplay. It's just straight into glowing jack-o'-lantern headed man monster things with so many appendages that may not be vines and pumpkin spice industries and all of that. There's a lot going on.
There is. So if you're like, I want to read some spooky season reads, but I don't know where to start. Boy, can we give you some recs in that episode. Maybe not recs.
Experiences. Warnings. Cautions. Cautionary tales.
Yeah, get ready for part 2 coming this Halloween.
Very soon. On Halloween to the day. So,
which perhaps is not helpful for you if you want books to read before Halloween, but guess what?
You can sure follow us on our various social medias linked below in our show notes, and you can see what we've been reading. We both have reading trackers and Goodreads accounts, and we let you know what we're ingesting into the old brain.
We sure do.
Yeah. Caroline's been on a rampage for spooky season reads.
I have at that. This one did hit the brakes just because it was so. I was like, all right, I've got like 3 days to read this book because I made the mistake of not starting it. And it was long, it was dense.
I made the mistake of getting Alexa to narrate the first half because I did not have the time.
I did that for the middle chunk.
Yeah, I did not have the time to wade through this one. Did I miss some stuff? Yeah. Did I get some wild deliveries on lines? Yeah. Did I have a bad time in the first half? No. Was I like in love with it? No. The second half, I'm happy I read like physically. Like I was like, okay, we got to like 50%. I had seen a review somewhere saying that like the first 2/3 were like pretty normal. And then it just got like super bonkers or like everything started happening. And I was like, at least I'll be there for that. And then I did go back and reread some things after things were getting like unfolded and everything, and was able to like go back and dive a little bit deeper because I had missed like a few things that I knew I was missing when I was listening to Alexa tell me what was going on. But it added to the ambiance. It added to my confusion. It added to the experience.
I did have I didn't like go back much later after the fact, but it would be like I would kind of zone out while I was listening because I read the beginning and then it was like I had a headache and I was like I can't like look at something, but I need to read this book, so I'll just do the like Alexa narrating thing, and it would be I read like a few chapters at a time like that, and then kind of read and intersperse, and then the last 40-ish% I just read myself because by that point I was hooked. It took me I liked the beginning, and then once he and Donna got separated, I was like, okay, you're losing me. It was very Gothic, you're losing me. It was very gothic, but I was like, okay, I need it's spooky, atmospheric, there's weird happenings, but I want Donna here.
I fully
want
agree.
more romance, and it was just a little too slow for me, where I was like, I need something to be happening. And then it picked up much more the last 40%.
Like the beginning had it was still kind of like funny, like it had some quotes that just had me rolling. I was like, darling, spicy cake. Me? I mean, that will live in my mind forever. And I was like definitely in the zone at the beginning because there weren't as many characters introduced at that point. Like you were like going kind of through like the life of Robert, and then you kind of got a little bit of the backstory of Donna.
Yeah, it was reminding me of Frankenstein, the very beginning, because it had a very similar, like, he's just gonna narrate you his entire life up until, you know, the action starts to pick up. One also with all of the other characters, and it was very gothic. You get like stories within stories and family histories and weird, very gothic. It is gothic. Yeah. I keep saying that. I mean that it is truly gothic.
Yeah, there was a lot of things that I would like highlight because I'm like, well, that's a clue, or like that is obvious. Like that is obviously like this will be relevant in the future. So I was happy that I did that because I could go back and like be like, oh yeah, okay, here's where we were like, he didn't trust the water by his bed, but he didn't think of it like at that time. So it's like I
did love the little foreshadowing where he'd be like, that would come back to save my life later. This was before I realized. I was like,
yeah. And
what do you mean?
Exactly. So I was mysterious. I was able to like follow along like for those things, and like went back into my Kindle book and like highlighted. I definitely did lose the plot a little bit once they got separated. I just couldn't like I try to read these books like just straight through, or at least like as much I can in a row, because I'm a severe mood reader, and so like if I get a glimpse of life on the other side of not reading a book that I'm not like actively wanting to read before, it goes downhill, and then I'll never finish, or it'll take me like 2 weeks and I'll forget everything.
And this is one you can't afford to forget halfway through.
No.
Because you will not know what's going on. I didn't know what was going on at the end, and I read it straight through. There are still things that I don't think I fully got.
I think I processed it pretty well, but I was literally sitting in my room. Like at one point I was like, what the fuck is happening? Like out loud. Yeah. I was like, what do you mean?
I did that a lot.
I was like, what?
I said, what do you mean a lot?
Yeah. I was like, huh? And yeah, there's a lot that I'm still kind of like, okay, who crimed in what way? Like, what?
I think the one that really got me, so if you were not aware, spoilers for Gaywyck by Vincent Virga.
Yeah. Lots of them.
From this point forward, I would recommend reading this one before listening, because it is a gothic mystery. You're gonna want to read it, or else there's no suspense. The one that really got me is I knew Cormac was alive, right? Like from the beginning, they're talking about his mysterious dead twin. There's no way he's dead. So I suspected that. And then once it took me a second, I was confused. Like I knew he was the one who attacked him. I was like, okay, clearly that's not Donna, that's Cormac. But then I didn't realize that every time he had sex, it was with Cormac. And then they revealed that, and I was like, oh, wait, so how long has he been? Like, I knew he was there being, like, mysterious and ghostly, but I didn't realize all. So there are still, I'm like, I don't know when their interactions, except for when they had sex. I don't know which interactions were supposed to not be done. It lost me.
Yeah, I think it was, because I didn't realize that they had, like, again, this is an Alexa narrated part, and I was, like, half braining it at that point. But I didn't realize that like on his third day there that he had like had sex with Donna / Cormac. It was like when he, because like
I thought he was just in the bed with him.
No. So it gets revealed later that that's the first time that they had sex, and I think it was in the author's note at the end. Because like I read Vincent Virga's like note, which also made me sob. I was like, oh my god. So I like it went back because that was the picture that was taken of them. That was the time that was taken, and then there was like he mentions the blinding lights that like I did not clock at the first point, and they had the lights on, the Devers or whatever. He had the lights on because he needed to take the like illicit photograph to like frame them.
Yeah, I mean I remember the whole like he thought he was dreaming, and like he had come back because Donna had come back because he was sick. And he has this dream / is it a dream of Donna, like, pulling his nightshirt off and then, like, getting into bed with him, and then he sees him standing by the window and, like, follows him outside. And then that's when doesn't he, like, get sick again because of that? He gives himself a cold because he was out naked.
As you be.
A lot in this book. There's a lot of going around naked.
There's a lot of just cape and then naked.
There's a lot of cape and naked. There's a lot of just generally naked. There's a lot of falling ill.
Yes. Yeah.
I love a little gothic nakedness.
I think they had sex. I mean, maybe they didn't.
That was that was, if they did, I missed that because I remember being like, oh, so what? But then that's another one where I'm like, but so Donna was the one who found him outside and brought him back in and put the nightshirt back on,
and then because then
Cormac was.
Yeah, because there was a moment where he was like, you were just in here or like something. And then Donna like looks at him. He's like, what? Like, you're dreaming or you were dreaming. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, so because I went back and reread it, I was like, I think because everything was so vague. Like, even like any time that they had sex was like super vague. Yeah. It was a little less vague when Jonesy was like banging the two dudes.
Well, we knew what was going on with Jonesy.
Yeah, like we knew that. And so that was a little bit more.
I just didn't realize that they had sex until I knew when he like comes to him in the waterfall. From that point forward, they're banging it out a lot.
And then there's like the hammock.
I
think. I mean, again, I could totally be.
It's also vague. Maybe we're not supposed to be entirely sure. There are a lot of things that I'm not entirely sure on. You know what I am sure on 100%, and that I suspected early on. They were banging their cousin. They are cousins, which I guess is not as much of a problem if you're.
I mean, there was also brother on brother
procreate, and that's so true.
Father on son, and maybe son on father. Like there was a lot.
There was so much.
And I mean, we have eased our way, let's say, into the conversation of incest just from our reading syllabus thus far. So it's nothing new, but it sure was a lot to unfold.
I mean, the father on son and brother on brother was new.
I mean, there was sister on brother in another book, and then there was the cousin.
True.
Yeah, so like
actually, I did forget about. I did forget about the Game of Thrones that was.
Oh
Sky O'Malley.
Yeah, but no, it was definitely like this was it was his own new thing, and I still wasn't really prepared for it, like because there were like those journal entries, and I was like, is it like?
It was suspect, but I was hoping I was wrong.
Yeah, and it was so. I don't know, like had they fully processed it, like I don't.
Well, every single character would benefit from therapy.
Yes, that's in like all of these books. Like,
I think maybe this one more than most.
Yeah. I mean, there was poor Donna. I mean that, and then what that nanny did to those two. But I'm like, what the? And then what Cormac did, I'm like, oh my god, like who?
Yeah, it got worse with every.
With
every onion like layer, every ogre like layer, if you will,
is like an onion. That house is the gift that keeps on giving horrible surprises.
Horrible surprises indeed. However, did I eat it up every time? Did I gasp in titillation every time? I did.
Reader, we were titillated.
I'm just, if you're gonna read Gothic romance, you're here to look at like the horrible, nasty underbelly of super rich people, right? Like,
yeah, and I was like vacillating between like 3 and 4 stars. I ended up giving it 4 stars because I think I would go back and reread it. And this is the first one that I've really wanted to like academically look at something. More as most of the others, I'm just kind of like there for if I like the vibes or not. But this one, like, because after reading the note at the end, or like the author note from Vincent, it was so interesting. Like, he included a bunch of quotes from like old Hollywood movies that were like all from heroines throughout that, and it was just so interesting to then, because he would like say the chapter that it was like inspiring, or like when it was in there. And then he named like Rock Hudson as the inspiration for the twins. And I was like, oh my gosh, there are just so many layers to this that it just, and just knowing Jane Eyre, and there was one other, not just Jane Eyre, it was something else. I can't remember.
I mean, Wuthering Heights.
Wuthering
He
Heights,
talks a lot about like the various like the whole reason he wrote it in the first place was because well, other than just he loved Gothic romance. But because they became really popular, and like his mother would read a lot of them, but they oftentimes centered around this, like, obviously it's, you know, you have this horrible secret at the center of whatever the Gothic like the plot is, and a lot of times instead of it being a wife in the attic, it was that the husband was gay.
Yep.
He was attracted to other men, and then he died, and he was horrible,
like he had a husband in the attic.
Right. And so he was like,
don't like that.
Genre has no gender was his whole, he's like, but I could write it with 2 men. And then he did. And everybody was gay. I saw, actually, this did make me laugh because there was a Goodreads review that I had seen where they like kind of rolled their eyes at the fact that every character was gay. And I have had so many like various gay friends who are like, no, almost all of my friends are gay. Like we just, you're drawn to each other. Like there's a sense of community. So it's like weirder when there's only one gay character because that's not, like that's not a thing. Community is so important for queer folks. And so I'm like, of course every character is going to be gay. It's a gay Gothic romance.
Well, and he was like, I'm writing this for like gay men.
Right.
Like we deserve romance too. And it was like the editor at Avon at first was like, if gay men wanted romance, then there would be
what a wild
gay romance books. And he was like, well, I'm a gay man and I wrote it. So like, here you go. I don't know what more like you want. Like I am like, the market. Yeah. Like
it's me.
Yeah. So that was interesting. I mean, at least she ended up buying it and publishing it, but what a weird turn of phrase. And then there was also in that note about how it was like the last like
pre-AIDS, because after that you get a lot of tragedy infused queer content.
Which this is not to say that it's not like tragedy infused, but
but they get an HEA.
There's
a lot of hope, and there's not a lot. There's a little bit of him being like, "Oh, I don't want to face like the disapprobation." Like, there's a little bit that he has to kind of overcome, but for the most part, there's no like Robert doesn't do a lot of quibbling about like, I could be attracted to men. Like he just is. And he doesn't really question that. That just is how it is.
Yeah. And it was really interesting to see like his coming into that in himself. And, like the little things like that he would pick up on, and then he was kind of just like, yeah, this is me.
Well, and I think it's interesting. I feel like in a lot of the queer historical romances, there's some kind of like, for them to get their HEA, there is that community aspect. But there's always kind of that idea of like, they have to find a way to exist in this society without broadcasting too much. You know what I mean? Like, it's still not widely accepted in society, so how do you have an HEA within that? Whereas this one, they never hid it from, like, the servants. They were just walking around banging on the, well, I guess that was Cormac, but nevertheless, like, just walking around naked together. Like, they just moved into their cottage and shared a bedroom. There was no, like, what will people think? They were like, and now we are together. And also, I'm adopting you.
That was a new kind of.
I think he just meant like legally
Yeah.
proving that he was
the name,
like that was his name,
yes,
as opposed to like adopting like
yeah
in the normal sense.
It was just tossed a little bit willy-nilly in there in the sense of I was like, you did what now?
Yeah.
Like in the eyes of the law, is he like your son?
Yeah.
Did I care? No. Was I questioning what I had just read? Yeah. I was like, okay. Cool, on par.
I guess that's the course nice. You get to legally, and he did mention like, so that you can legally belong to me or something like that, which I think in the sense of like the reason marriage is so important isn't because like, oh, it's just a piece of paper. It's like, well, those are your legal rights, because if you're not married to somebody, you have no legal.
Yeah, because it would, because if he was adopted, he could get, like, if Donna were to die.
Yeah, things would go to him. Or I'm thinking about like in today's society when people say things like that, I'm like, if you don't want to get married, that is totally your prerogative. However, saying it's just a piece of paper, not true. If you end up in the emergency room and you're unconscious, in a coma, whatever, and you're not legally married, you have no say. They need next of kin, and you are nothing. I have a lot of feelings about it. Obviously, slightly different. It was 1902, but
which also
being legally family is gonna probably make some differences.
Yeah. Which also the 1902-ness of it was so odd to me because like most of the books I read are pre-1900s. And like even this one started at like 1896 or something, and then you got like a little bit before that, and then through the years
like you experienced the turn of the century.
And I mean, reading the note, like that was intentional, and it was I think Vincent Virga was like, he wanted to make it strange, like the historical setting strange, and I found it strange in the sense I was like, these people are like eating a Whitman sampler. I was like, I eat a Whitman sampler like at my grandma's house, like she has one like every year around Christmas. I was like, that's such a weird thing to like, because I just have a really hard time thinking of things like now that were also back then, like even like you can get like a Fortnum and Mason like basket currently, like that's still like obviously a shop, and so it was just so fascinating to me. And so there were so many times when I was like, whoa, they are like us. We are like them. But then also like they had like telegraphs and automobiles, and like it was just a little bit more modern, and so it was just, that was also like jarring and not a bad thing at all. I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm so 21st century like coded, like it's just so weird to me. I don't know, but yeah. And I was trying to like figure out, because I think Robert, they said he was like 18 or 19 at the beginning of this, like when he meets Donna, he's pretty young. And then I was trying to figure out how old Brian was, because I was like, because I didn't know if he was like younger. I was like, he's a young man.
I never
was
did
described.
Figure out Brian. I knew.
Yeah, so I went. Yeah. So at first it was like a young, like redheaded, freckled, blue-eyed young man, and then they mentioned that he was 12 in 19, or like 12 or 13 in 19, or 1884. So then I like did the math and like figured out like how old he would have been like in 96, and then a little bit older, so like around between 24 and 26, something like that, so like pre-30s. Because I was like, how old is he? Because I thought his marriage was cute. I was like, oh, and then the little kids, and then they had the like their kids had a kid named Roberta, and I was like, oh my fucking god. I mean, anything, if you want to get me emotionally, it's like having like epilogues or like hints of things happening like generations in the future, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't take it. Which did happen last night, which was painful for me. And that's okay.
Well, and sometimes you have an epilogue that's just about however many 60 years later.
Yeah, 1969, I think.
With her like, and then he died, and why would you tell me that?
I was like, oh my god, I'm dead. I was like, I can't. The pain. It hurt. It hurt me.
It's fine. It's fine. There were no good characters except for Brian, who I love. Although he did confuse me at first, because they were fully like, Brian's
I was so
mute,
confused,
and I was like, okay. Yeah. And then he started talking, and I was like, let's rewind a second, because you guys definitely. And then they did have Jonesy make a comment about it, and I was like, okay. But now he's talking to everybody, so I am confused. It's fine. I love Brian.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't really have. I enjoyed. I mean, Brian was my favorite. I really enjoyed Brian. But I didn't mind Robert and Donna. I was.
Oh no, I like them just fine. I meant every. Oh, and I like the friends too. I like
the friends. Yeah, Mortimer
and Goodbody. I really like.
Goodbody, yes, yeah. And
the
how they
entire
kind of represented
Christmas sequence where he unleashes a cockatiel on a house with 7 cats, and is like, "Oh dear Lord, we gotta go," because I did not think about that. Only for them to be like, everybody grab a cat, please. I was reading that in the car today, waiting to pick up my sister, and I was howling. Yeah. Everybody grab a cat.
Yeah, and then the main cat was Kale. Another standout character.
Yeah.
Ugh. He got pushed, like, he was battered.
He got kicked into the sea twice. Yeah,
with some broken, like, poor cat. But he survived, and I love him for it. He was great. And he just kept attacking. I believe it was Cormac sneaking into the room, unless it was someone else.
Keys.
Was it Keys? I'm like,
Keys
at this point, I'm like,
him.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know who's doing what. I just know that most people who needed to die were dead by the end, or not needed. Like they just.
No, pretty
I'm
much
like,
everyone died.
Yeah,
needed to die.
Yeah, I was like, okay, it was either one of the three, and I'm like, if I know it was one of the three, they all did crimes. I'm like, at this point, like, I know, I know it's one of three. That's good enough for me. I did try to map it out last night. Things were happening.
There are just too many,
so much.
I'm like, which one? So this one tried to drown him, and then another one was drugging him and leaving the flowers, and because he thought it was Jonesy, but it kept happening after he was gone, and at first he didn't notice it, and I was like, Robert, I sure would be noticing if black orchids continued appearing in my water glass after the person I thought left them was gone.
Yeah.
Frankly, and I know his excuse was like, oh, Kale doesn't like it when I lock the door. I think if someone was sneaking into my bedroom at night that I hated and like threatening me, I would be like, I'm so sorry, Kat. You're going to have to deal with the locked door because I'm not having this weird little Welshman appear naked in my room and just like try to have sex with me. What a despicable man.
I mean, that is so true. He had a funny quote. Reader, you might never infer from this memoir that I am abundant in the rare and precious commodity known as common sense.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that.
Because he's like, yeah, I'm aware. I was just not showing it. But, like, that was at 98%. At 98%, he was like, reader.
Yeah.
I know that I have not proven that I possess common sense, but trust me.
Believe it or not.
It's there. That anytime he said reader, he was like, reader, I was dumbfounded. Reader, I was lost in a foreign country. Like, I was like, yes.
It's giving
it was fun.
Reader, I married him.
Yes.
Which I'm sure was intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's Jane Eyre, right?
I believe, yeah.
So, slay.
Mm-hmm.
You had talked about the various references. I think one of them was Breakfast at Tiffany's. That was the only one I caught. The people don't belong to other people.
Yep. There were, but I've seen a good amount of black and white movies and like older movies, but I don't think I had seen any of these. I've seen.
I just know because I had Googled a little bit about it before reading it, and there's not a ton written about this book, which is odd because it's billed as the first ever gay Gothic romance, so you would expect.
I know Chels goes into a little bit about that in their TikTok on it, which we can link because I watched that after reading it because I'd watched it before and then bookmarked it, and then I was like, I'm gonna come back to this like when because there were some things in there like they mentioned and I was like, oh okay, that seems like I could have a scary time, but it turned out differently than I like expected it. And then I was like, oh yeah, I see how that happened, and I see all that. I was like, oh okay, I know.
But in the little bit of research that I was able to find, there was a blog post, I think, or something along those lines from Vincent Virga that was not the end. No, It was a different one. And he mentions all of the different references, and he said something about I can't remember who he said it was that tried to go through and find all of them, and he found 47, and he's like, he didn't find all of them.
What in the Taylor Swift?
And I'm like, yeah, because I found like one. And then he was quoting things all over the place, like the characters were quoting like Shakespeare and philosophers, and I was like, listen, I'm a Shakespeare fan, and even I am. It's because they were quoting plays I don't. Winter's Tale and different. King Lear, I could not tell you quotes from that.
Ooh, I don't know if I know quotes, but I remember reading that one in the college library.
Sure.
What a while.
Was it library 1 or 2?
I think we just had one library. It was on the first floor.
So you got nothing on Gaywyck.
No. Also, I was like, that's a lot of books. Speaking of someone who owns a lot of books, that was a lot of books that he was.
It actually really did irritate me that
with.
he was like, "Don't bother alphabetizing."
Yeah,
'cause
I was
that's
like, well,
dumb.
you're
I was
still
like,
moving them around and like.
so at least there
them.
were like the two like the art and music rooms that were like already
Mhm.
kind of separated off. So I'm like, okay, those are at least like they get their own
Mhm.
set. But see, my approach to that is it's time to take all of the books out,
Mhm.
organize them into sections, and then alphabetize within those sections.
Mhm.
Because if you're gonna bother with this whole system, you might as well just go all the way.
I agree.
Also,
he
where
gave
can
some
I get a
reason, he was like-
job where they're
Yeah.
like, you need to just reorganize the library and I'll pay you a lot of money, but also you can like take piano lessons and hang out reading Roman history and
Mhm.
I'll just
Don't
give
forget
you
the Greek.
a
He made that.
gymnasium. Yeah.
He's like, I forgot the Greek. I forgot the Greeks.
I sure did have to Google that because I did not know what they were talking about. And I learned
What were they
something.
talking about? I thought
Oh,
they
they're
were just
talking about that.
like.
Oh no, they were referencing the fact that orchids are the name comes from the Greek word for testicle.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
cool. Look at that.
So you did not remember your Greek.
I did not even know it to begin with. I forgot to remember. Yeah, cool. That makes sense to me.
Yeah,
and everyone involved. Yeah, I definitely think I lost a bit by having Alexa read it. But would I change it? No.
Pages. You're
It's
gonna
so
lose
long.
a bit.
There were 3
dense.
books in it. It's dense. Like, it took me so long to read the last 50%. It was probably even like the last like 45%. And like I would like look at my tracker and it was like, you have only read 58%. I'm like, I've been reading for so long. Like, I promise you, I have been diligently reading this and I'm only at 58%. It was a thick boy.
It was a thick boy. I started it on my Kindle and I gave it a minute to figure out my reading speed. And then it was like, you'll finish this book in 11 hours. And I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah. Mine was stuck on 3 hours for ages. I was like, it's been longer than 3 hours.
Mine would,
like,
as I like switched the pages, the time would go up.
Increase?
I was like, what?
That's fun.
That's not how that's supposed to work.
That's casual.
Like, I'm just
mystical,
confused.
magical.
Mystical, magical indeed. I apparently need to read more Gothic literature. But I only care if there's romance, so I could do like,
and that excludes a lot.
Yeah, I don't care about. I mean, Mexican Gothic was a great one, but that's like Gothic horror with a little tiny bit of romance. Jane Eyre, I remember enjoying a little bit, but I was in that 10th grade, so I don't know. Wuthering Heights, I was just mad about how terrible everyone was. But like,
yeah, I think I definitely enjoyed. I enjoyed this one more than Wuthering Heights, just because the mystery, and I was like very intrigued what was happening and like into it. I mean, I enjoyed Wuthering Heights too. I wasn't like opposed to it, but I don't think I would ever need to read it again. But this one, I think I would be like, okay, yeah. I can go back and see what I missed and kind of like track and be more intentional about it. But yeah, I mean, there was just no way. Like, I could not force myself to have.
I think it's one of those
read more of it,
like twisty mysteries where you almost have to read it twice because there are just things that you will miss unless you know to be looking for them.
Which, and like, at least thankfully we had the ebook to where we could like search and like keep looking for things, because I definitely had to go back and be like, who is this, or like what when were they introduced, or like how did these things level out. And then Vincent Virga says that due to COVID the plan is delayed, but like there's like a sequel, and I'm like, what?
I thought there already was.
There's the title, but then someone on Goodreads had like messaged him and he said that due to the pandemic it's been delayed, but that it's his technically like a trilogy. And I'm like,
oh, you mean the third one's not out?
Yeah. Is the second one like fully out?
I mean, this says that Vadriel Vale was published in 2001.
I guess someone commented on mine and they were like, Vincent Virga needs to release the sequel to us. So I'm like, I don't quite know what's happened there. I mean, I think it was their review where they said that they contacted. Yeah, this person said, I wrote to Vincent Virga and he very graciously replied, the pandemic apparently put a damper on his sequel publication plans, but he will move forward with them again. If you love Gaywyck, go send him some encouragement via mail. And their review was it was like a year ago.
Okay, well, there are reviews of Vadriel Vale.
So it must be like a different, maybe not that one.
But there's no third one. It's called the Gaywyck trilogy, but there's currently
maybe
only
it's
2.
that one. I don't know. What is that one about?
That I don't know. One of the people who marked it as to read says it's out of print, so maybe that's what they mean.
Oh yeah, so that person commented on this one. They said, I need this long out of print sequel now.
Right.
So they must not be able to secure it anywhere. I don't know how to go about that if anyone has any tips and tricks.
I mean, somebody else said they ordered it off of Amazon, so I don't...
Yeah, I don't quite know what's going on with that.
But I have no idea.
Also, the cover for this, like the classic with the bodice ripper font, is perfection.
You can buy a used paperback off of Amazon.
Huh. Maybe they're not in the U.S.? I don't know. Mysteries are afoot.
How appropriate.
Reader, we're confused.
How topical.
Yeah.
Reader, we are confused. Reader, we have no lesson for you.
Decapitated bees? Question mark.
Yes, that is the lesson. Decapitated bees? Run.
Run, yeah. If there are decapitated bees, I'm like, that's bad news bears.
It's never a good sign.
No. If someone calls you a darling spicy cake, hell yeah. I had a few.
Your dead twin is never actually dead.
That's a good one. I don't know if I'd want to spoil it. Like,
oh, that's a good point.
I mean, but like also it is obvious. But like,
no, but it is the twist.
Yeah, the good old twist. Don't leave journals lying around.
That is a good one.
Don't do that because they tell the truth.
Also, I love that actually Jonesy says it. He's like, it's hilarious that all of you write down literally everything.
Yeah. And they're like deeply honest. Like they are not beating around the bush. They are
like all of you are journaling.
And he's like, I learned about one journal from your journal and like thanks for that. Like Jonesy was an interesting case. I'm like, what is your like what
he
are
was
you what are
literally
you like,
only there to fuck shit up.
Yeah.
That was his only purpose in the entire book. He showed up, he caused problems, and then he died. Yeah. Which caused more problems.
And I was like, slay. Literally, he was slayed.
I like also that he was ugly, and he had an ugly brother, but the ugly brother had nice teeth, but he had ugly teeth. So that's what you know that he was the evil brother.
Because was he related to the David? Was he the...
They're all Price
brother?
Davis.
Okay.
And
Price Davis.
Margaret Davis are all related.
What a tangled web. Twin shenanigans.
Sorry, Price Jones, Margaret Davis. That's her married name. Mr. Jones was the one that got murdered.
Yes, he was.
Which was barely... It was... I don't even know why that was in there, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. He gets murdered. We don't really hear about why, except that he, like, wasn't great. He was just
I thought
there.
That was going to be more relevant.
Yeah, he was, like... it only happened, I guess, so that...
To get Donna away, right?
Well, that, but also to get the Joneses into
their plot.
Yeah. I guess, because otherwise, why would they be there? I don't know.
I don't either. Another lesson, Gothic novels give the best quotes. I stand by that.
That's so true. My lesson is everyone grab a cat, because that is still my favorite quote.
I like that. Twin shenanigans are not always sunshine and roses. Good old twins. Only fools and madmen and late 19th century romantics die for love.
That was a great one.
Everybody grab a cat.
Everybody
eating your emotions from a Whitman sampler is truly a timeless experience. I was just like, yeah. And I loved his fascination with the food. I was like, yes, eat well. And I was very hungry. Someone crap the cat. Gosh.
This doesn't work as a lesson, but I was just looking at the few things that I highlighted, and I would like to point out that his mother apparently is the reason that he doesn't really love mushrooms. She like doesn't trust him.
Yeah.
And there's a part. Well, I also will not be eating mushrooms ever. But there's a part where apparently she told him that they are that the fleshy fungus was brother to the mold and sister to the slimes.
Yeah.
It was like, that is so true. Keep it away from. Scientists don't know that much about fungus. Like, they're kind of a mystery to experts. What do you mean?
They're a mystery to me too.
But I mean, people who are experts in fungi are also, like, they don't really know that much about them. Because they're like a weird collective conscious.
Yeah, I don't
And if
like
you
them.
see a few mushrooms, it's because actually there's a giant mushroom under the ground. No. And that's why Silvia Moreno Garcia in Mexican Gothic gets it. Because mushrooms are critical to the Gothic horror in that book. And I was like, and she's right.
Yeah, I didn't know that fungal horror was a thing.
Yeah.
And the word fungal does deeply scary things to my soul.
Yeah.
And so, like, because I think what Amelia reads, I think, is her username on Bookstagram, but she's a friend from college. And she, like, had a post about, like, fungal horror. I was like, what do you mean fungal horror? That's a thing? And then I read the post, and I was like, well, that is a thing. I don't think it's a thing I've encountered willingly. And I just didn't know it was like a genre. I was very fascinated. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I thought mushrooms were to be avoided at all costs by me.
I mean,
which still stands.
Yeah.
But yeah, I learned that. So that was, I was like, I just didn't know it existed.
Just because fungi are horrible and they're scary and they'll mess with your brain.
They will.
I don't like, and they'll make your head fall off in the stew. That's my lesson. You can give whatever lesson you want. My lesson is that mushrooms will make your head fall into the stew.
What did the mother quote about the mushroom? I wrote it somewhere. That was like me.
I mean,
honestly, the father dabbled heavily in whimsy. Yeah, let's just, to round it out, there were just some banger quotes. But I want to find the one about the mushroom.
Like me, I thought, a vacant space soon to be occupied by a splendid building and books.
Yep. That was fun and phallic.
I thought it was relatable,
the priapic abundance is strong in this one.
Take me out. There was a lot of priapic abundance.
And then purveyors of pernicious pabulum. That was a fun one. What a darling spicy cake. You are wise for one so young and savory. I want to be called young and savory, and I also want to be called robust. Like a Domino's pizza sauce. I'm a young and savory, robust.
Not even sauce. Really related, except that my sister works at Papa John's, and I've been listening to Chappell Roan's album recently, and one of the songs, and now I'm blanking on, I think it's the very first one, actually, Femininomenon. The chorus is this, like, chant that at first is only half of each lyric, and then the beat comes in and it's the full lyric. And one of the lines is something about, nope, I'm gonna have to look it up because otherwise I'm gonna butcher it and it's gonna be embarrassing. Hang on. Anyway, but the point is that it references Papa John's, and as I was there it is. get it hot like Papa John. And I listened to this song for the first time as I was taking her to work, and I was like, the Papa John?
The Papa John. Ugh.
The Papa John. Anyway, why was that relevant? I don't remember. Oh, robust. That's where.
Robust. He thrives on unoriginal euphemism.
I don't have that many. However, I did. Who is it talking? Oh, it's Denver's. Unfortunate, I thought it was one of the Fabulous Friends. It's not, but Denver's comes out when they're feeding the gulls. And is like...
Are you feeding these aviary?
Yeah, he's mad. Because he's like, oh, so, like, they'll keep coming back for food. And then he's talking about Brian's in a state, his bread's disappeared. Oh, God, Donna, you haven't given those monogamous aviary horrors our bread. How could you?
Yep.
Monogamous aviary horrors.
Yep. And honestly, seagulls suck. So, points to that in the truth column.
I too am a monogamous aviary horror.
Mm-hmm. They had pumpkin pie.
Horror. Not a monogamous aviary whore.
Horror.
Which is different.
So true. I did enjoy when he was drunk for the first time and like thought he was flying, and Donna was like carrying him up the stairs. It was just a fun scene.
He was like, "Oh my god, am I drunk?" And he's like, "Yes, you could say that." And he's like, "This is drunk." And he's like, "Yes." And he's like, "I like it." And Donna's like, "I was afraid you would say that."
I love a drunk scene. The mushroom quote was, "I live in terror of mushrooms." Yeah,
don't we all?
Exactly. Nailed it.
Mushrooms are the true Gothic horror.
Yeah, that's the quote. No, that's the lesson. Yeah. Writing that down.
The fleshy fungus was brother to the mold and sister to the slimes is the most accurate description of mushrooms I have ever heard.
Ew.
Ew, indeed.
I mean, sister to the slimes and spicy darling cake are two sides of the same coin, really.
Are they?
Think about it long enough. If you think about it long enough.
I don't think that they are.
It was telling me how robust I looked. Honestly, why don't I have that visible? I need everyone to tell me how robust I looked.
We are running out of time before I'm gonna have to leave,
yes.
But I don't.
Oh my! One final thing,
please.
There was someone Gray's Anatomy, but it was spelled like Grays, like apostrophe S anatomy, and I was like Gray's Anatomy, like the show. That one has an E, not an A. I thought that was funny.
Well, there you have it.
Only in novels can people sleep for days, ignoring all bodily functions.
I mean,
true.
Yeah.
I do.
But
love sleeping.
But so okay, that's what I thought. You know that Gray's Anatomy is a play on Gray Gray's Anatomy, which is, according to Wikipedia, a reference book of human anatomy written.
Well, that's what they referenced in here.
Oh, okay.
So that it was fun. I was like, Gray's Anatomy, but that's referencing the Gray's Anatomy book. Yeah. I didn't know
that's
that.
Why that's why the show is called. I assume. I don't watch Gray's Anatomy.
Me
I just
neither.
have to assume if they named it that, it's because of Henry.
Points to everyone involved, because that's hilarious. That's such a niche. Like, I hope they talk about. I'm assuming they talk about it in the show. That's funny. I enjoy that very much.
I'm happy for you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, there is so much about this book that we didn't cover, but frankly,
you can't.
You can't.
It's just...
There was so much happening in that last third.
Yeah.
Because then you find out that Donna was, like, he was impotent.
Yeah.
For, like...
Sure, because of sexual trauma. From when your twin brother makes you sexually submit to him in an imitation of your father and his lover.
Yeah, it was, like, at that point, I was like, wait, so he never... Like, it was always Cormac. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, my God. So,
the book is a little bit of a mindfuck.
It is. And I was also sobbing at the end. So there's that. I don't know what was happening with me, but I do
think it's a good, like, if you know you like Gothic fiction, recommend. If you don't mind, like, a pretty hefty book, because it's a slow mover in the first couple thirds, really. If that doesn't bother you, go for it.
You can add it. Yeah, you can add it to your waterfowl list. There were swans. I have a running list of geese and swans in books.
I mean, it takes place over the course of, years, right?
Yeah, because it's like you said, like the turn of the century. They have like it's like referenced more in the note at the end, but yeah, it's like it's very.
It's like 99 to 02, something like years. I don't remember what the exact.
1899. Yeah, you're right. And then it was 1887 when his father and older twin died in the fire.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yep. And then it was 1884 when Brian
3 years.
Yep.
The like
it was like
1902,
plot. I think.
So it's not like a Halloween book, but it is a Gothic, like spooky, atmospheric mystery.
They love spice cake. They love pumpkins. They talk about autumn. He like smells like autumn air. Donna does. Like, it's got the vibes. And again, like, I wouldn't say like I'm a pursuer of Gothic fiction, but this did what it needed to do. And I thought the romance was super compelling, especially like after 50%.
Yeah,
because again, like it lost a little bit when they were
the
separated.
Half, yeah. But lots of content warnings also.
Yeah,
just a lot of like rape and child abuse and incest and murder,
like unconsensual, because he didn't know he was sleeping with his Cormac. There was a lot. Murder.
I'm assuming if you've listened this far, you've already read the book.
Yeah, or you're just confused and relatable. So
that was the experience of reading it.
I enjoyed it. It was like very moving by the end, because I think Estelle was like pondering between like 3 and 4, and then I settled on 4 because I was like, you know what, slay. I was like,
slay. I think it was a really good like queer take on an already established genre that was not.
And I wish there was more written about it
by queer authors as much at that point.
Like, it made me want to break out my literary like theory criticism textbook and go to town. Will I? No. Dreams of that? Yeah. So.
Well, there you have it. I need to go because I have to go pick up my sister from Papa John's.
I was like, why the dramatic pause?
I was trying to think of the lyric again. Give me hot like Papa John.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. Maybe we'll do that Jill Barnett book or whatever it is.
Bewitching? That was a really good one. I'll be curious to see what you think. I can't remember why, but there was something about it that I was like, she might not like that.
Well, if I absolutely despise it, maybe we won't. But fingers crossed that'll be our episode for next week. It's all rude for me.
No. I know what it is. It's not that I think you'll hate it. I'm curious to see what you think about it.
Well, that's a cliffhanger if I've ever heard one. So, what great advertisement for next week's episode that we're like 90% certain will be Bewitching by Jill Barnett. Get it at your library or source the copy. I am doing the Audible original audiobook.
I think it's on...
Is it KU?
It might be on KU.
That would just be dandy for all involved.
It is. It is on KU.
Look at that.
And then there's, the Audible audiobook.
Perfect. Okay, and then after that, it's our Halloween episode, and then another Old School School, and there we are.
Off we go.
Off we go with our...
Into the Haunted Mansion.
Into the Haunted Mansion with our cats and our beheaded bees.
Is only haunted. We never even touched on his mother, who isn't dead, who's living a la Rochester's wife. Hidden There's
and
just
is also
so
the
much.
Cousin. Well, that's how they're related, is because she's Robert's mother's sister. So there's a lot.
There was a lot.
And I was like, huh? Because he was like, why does your mother look like my mother? And I was like, oh,
guys, could it perhaps be? Could it perhaps?
And then he was like, we're cousins, with a smile on his face. I was like, delivery was questionable.
Reaction? Perhaps not the reaction I would have had at finding out my lover was my cousin, but to each their own, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll leave you with that, because I really have to go.